What is going on, Bucs fans and CFP fans? Evan Wanish here, back at you with another video talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And today, we are going to be breaking down the players to watch for the Buccaneers Week 2 matchup against the Detroit Lions, a matchup of two 1-0 teams. The Buccaneers obviously coming off of a pretty big win against the Washington Commanders. The Detroit Lions coming off of a thrilling win in overtime against the Los Angeles Rams. It does appear have the makings of a normal CFP episode, though, as once again, and it will be all season long for the players to watch. I'll be joined by my co-host on CFP, Rhett Matthew. So, Rhett, how are you doing today?
I am doing good. Excited for some Week 2 action. Hope the Bucs can continue to play confident and mistake-free, because they've got a tall task here in Week 2.
They definitely do. And without further ado, let's get right into the players to watch. We're going to have two on offense, two on defense, and then we'll finish up with our X factor in the game. First player to watch on offense is going to be wide receiver Chris Godwin. Now, Chris Godwin last week was one of the more impressive players, I think. I was said it multiple times on the podcast. It looks sort of like his 2019, 2020 self, right? It looked like old Chris Godwin was back. Last year in 2022, Chris Godwin, he was good, but he wasn't quite himself. I don't believe he even found the end zone until week 8 or week 9. This time he finds the end zone week 1. So he was a third down machine for the Bucs on Sunday against the Washington, and he's a guy who I think they're going to need on Sunday, as they're going to need a lot of players on offense to step up. I think they're going to have to score some points in this football game, and I think Chris Godwin's a pretty big key to that.
Yeah, I hate to recycle a take here, but this time a year ago, I floated out there that by the end of the 2023 season, Chris Godwin would be a favorite target of Baker Mayfield. And I think that could be applied to 2024. I know things were different in the Dave Canales offense in 2023. Godwin, took a little while to come around or at least find the end zone. He was still effective, but I think Liam Cohen is finding ways to make him a little bit more effective and bringing him back to what he was doing before when he made all that money playing out of the slot receiver position. So I think Chris Godwin is going to continue to be a huge asset for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that's just because of his ability to break games, I guess. He was the leading receiver for the Bucs last week, and that's in a game that Mike Evans had 2 touchdowns. So I think Chris Godwin, if it's not him, their corners are certainly going to have their hands full with Mike Evans. You're going to need double team attention on him for most of the game. And I think Jalen McMillan is a new wrinkle in this offense that the Lions may not be ready for, but Chris Godwin definitely going to be one of the most valuable receiver targets for Baker Mayfield down the stretch. I think between the contract year and Liam Cohen kind of dialing him in and his usage in this offense, he's going to have a really exciting year.
Definitely. And look, I think in this game, it's going to start up front on both sides of the ball. Lions offensive and defensive line are some of the best in the NFL. The Buccaneers got some unfortunate news on Friday with the news that Luke Goedeke, a right tackle, is going to be out of this game. His replacement is going to be Justin Skule there at right tackle. Justin Skule is not going to be the name we're focusing on here. Instead, we're going to be focusing on who Skule will be playing next to, which is right guard Cody Mal. I thought Mal last week played okay. There were a few times he had a tough assignment last week, with either Jonathan Allen or Darren Payne. So he had a really tough assignment last week in Washington. It's not going to get much easier this time around, especially with a right tackle who's a backup right tackle. I think Cody Mal, though, is in need of a semi-bounce back game because, again, Baker Mayfield, as good as he was against Washington, we praised him being able to avoid pressure, avoid sacks, and I think that he's going to have to do that again. But I think if he's doing it again at the volume that he did last week, I don't know if it's going to work out the same way. So I think a guy like Cody Mal has got to play well.
Yeah, this is a game where, not only is he missing Luke Goedeke at right tackle, but he's just got to consistently show people that he can play at an NFL level. I think he did a lot of really good things week 1. His physicality in 2023 during his rookie season was something that we knew he was going to have to work on, and he's done that. He had an offseason in a weight room. Showed off his ability to kind of hit the gas pedal at times as well. He's pretty shifty, pretty fast, and did a couple of, really good jobs last week picking up some coverages next to Graham Barton. I think those guys are going to have to work together really well this week. But, for Cody Mal, I think just consistently proving that he can play at that level, consistently not making mistakes, and then improving his vision is another thing as well. I think if you can pick up something that, a Justin Skule may have missed, or you make one more quarterback saving block in a game, that could be the difference between a win or a loss. It could be a difference between 3 points and no points. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but I think for Cody Mal, it's really just consistency, trying to do the good things well all of the time, because he does some good things and he does them well. He's just getting to the point where we'd like to see him do it all of the time. And I think he'll get there, but certainly going to have his hands full this week.
Moving on to the defensive side of the ball, we're going to focus again on the trenches, this time in the interior of the Bucs defensive line. And we're going to go with Vita Vea. Kalijah Kancey's another name who was ruled out for this game. So Vita Vea, a lot of attention obviously gets put on Vita Vea. A lot of double teams gets put on Vita Vea, rightfully so. But again, I think he's going to need to be a key here. Stopping the run, which is what we know Detroit wants to do. They want to run the football. And also, I think getting pressure on Jared Goff up the middle. The edge rushers, that's great if the edge rushers get pressure, but pressure up the middle, I feel, is sometimes more effective because it can prevent that quarterback from being able to step up in the pocket, right? He has to sort of backpedal in order to prevent, get away from pressure up that middle. So I think Vita Vea is going to be a pretty big key in this one.
Yeah, and Jared Goff is a type of quarterback where he can, extend some plays out of the pocket when things break down, but he's not going to scramble like Jaden Daniels.
Yes.
He's not going to be running quite as fast. So if you can get guys like JTS, Chris Braswell, even a Yaya Diaby out there to finish some plays and generate some pressure, that's going to be huge. But when we look at what's on the plate of Vita Vea this week, man, I almost wish he weighed an extra 50 pounds or something, just because between the responsibilities in the run game and then, of course, bringing that consistent pressure to the quarterback, he's going to have to be on the field for a lot of the game. I mean, I know that's kind of why he cut weight headed into this year. They expected him to pick up a little bit on the snap count, but he's certainly going to have his hands full, and I think he's a presence. He's going to get double team attention for most of the game, but hopefully he's able to do enough consistently to, as you said, open up some of the opportunities for the other guys around him, because this pass rush needs all the help they can get this week.
Agreed. Definitely agree. And speaking of all the help they can get, the secondary is in need of a lot of help. Antoine Winfield Jr. out for this game. Bryce Hall out for the season, most likely. Josh Hayes, I Bleav, also out for this game. Now, they have received some positive news. While I don't Bleav it's official, and as of the recording of this video, it is not official, at least. It may be official by the time this video drops, but it seems like Zion McCollum might play. However, we are going to go with Jamal Dean, because Jamal Dean is in a depleted secondary. Jamal Dean's one of the more experienced players the Buccaneers have back there, and they're going to need a guy like that to step up and make some plays. So his buddy Carlton Davis is going to be on the other side of the field this time, playing for the other team, and hopefully Jamal Dean is a guy who can show out and really help try and slow down the Lions' passing attack.
Yeah, this is the game for Jamal Dean to prove to Bucs fans that he can be a reliable number one corner, because that's exactly what they had in mind when they traded Carlton Davis to the Lions. Jamal Dean stepping up into that CB1 role, and Zion McCollum, if he's available this week, being a reliable CB2. They like the development of Zion McCollum, and I think a lot of people like the ceiling that Jamal Dean has. You remember that contract season, he played very well. Yeah. And was able to kind of change a lot of people's minds about him, but he's got to be consistent. He's got to stay on the field, right? Just like this Buccaneers secondary has struggled with in years past, just like they struggled with Carlton Davis, Jamal Dean isn't always available to be on the field. And the Bucs secondary already coming into this as thin as they are. If you lose a Jamal Dean or you lose a Zion McCollum with as much firepower as the Lions have on their wide receiver room, and then of course the running backs that can slice you up as well, it could be a long afternoon. So, again, as we've been saying this entire video, a tall task for Jamal Dean, but I think if he's able to do it and, I guess, hang in there with Detroit, he's going to prove a lot of his doubters wrong this week, I think.
Definitely. And with that being said, we are going to bring it back to our X factor of the game. This is the player who I think just is the most important player for the Buccaneers. If they're going to win this game, they have to get this guy going, and this player has to play well in order to win this game. This week's X factor is going to be quarterback Baker Mayfield. The ball is going to be in his hands an awful lot, I think. The Detroit Lions run defense is really good. I don't know if the Bucs are going to be able to run the football with much success this week. If they can, that helps things so much, but I just don't know if they're going to be able to do that, especially with the work in progress that the run game currently is in. So Baker Mayfield is going to have to play well. The ball is going to be in his hands an awful lot. He's going to have to find ways to get the ball to Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rachaad White, Jalen McMillan. Baker Mayfield is this week's X factor. What do you think about Mayfield heading into this matchup?
Baker Mayfield was a superhero for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week, and although it may not be fair to him, he's going to have to do it again this week. We've talked a lot about the depleted reinforcements the Buccaneers have, especially missing your starting right tackle. So he's probably going to have to do some more improvisation this week. I also think that the pass game is going to be the key to the Bucs staying in this thing at all. I don't want to assume they will be playing from behind, but I don't have a lot of faith in the run game just yet, going against a defense of this caliber and controlling the pace of the football game. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to be blown away and pleasantly surprised Sunday afternoon when Bucky Irving continues to carry 5+ yards per carry. I just don't think it happens that way, at least not this week, especially because of the injuries. But yeah, I think Baker's going to have to be Superman this week, and I think he's got the ability to do it. But if his offensive line can't block, some of that ability that we saw to extend the play last week, I don't think he's going to have as many chances if his offensive line cannot hold up, because this is a much better Lions pass rush. And again, this is a Bucs offensive line without Luke Etiquette right tackle. So a lot on his plate, but I think Baker's got to be the man this week for another week in a row.
Going to be a pretty big challenge, for the Buccaneers as a whole, not just the players you mentioned, but for the Buccaneers team as a whole. Everybody's got to step up, and the Lions are one of the better teams in the NFC. Heck, they're one of the better teams in the entire NFL. So this is not going to be an easy road game for the Buccaneers. Their first game on the road in Detroit. So we will see what happens. But let us know what players you're watching. What players are you going to have your eyes on? Do you agree with our list, or do you think there's somebody else out there that needs to have a big game in order to get the victory on Sunday? Please let us know what you guys think in the comment section below. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and go Bucs.